Hi, this is Femi Fenojo, your host. Before we get into today's episode, I have a short but important announcement. Because of the recent development with respect to the release of the first batch of the UFO files, I've decided to bring forward the section of our series that deals and speaks directly to this question of UFO, UAPs, extraterrestrial and interstellar being, aliens, AI. So we're going to bring that portion forward. So from today, we are starting from episode 363. That means we are skipping 9 episodes. So we are going to start from episode 363 to episode 378. And when we finish that, we'll then return to this 9 episode we are skipping. That means there will be a little bit of glitch with respect to continuity, but I think it is better for us to do it this way. During this special period of episode 363 to 378, we will now be sharing 2 episodes during the weekday, Mondays and Wednesday. And when this period is over, we'll return back to sharing it once every weekday. During this period, we will continue by the grace of God to still share from our affiliated channel, just like we are doing during the weekend. Let us get into the episode for today. Genesis chapter 6, we read verse 4 in the New American Standard Bible. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of mankind, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 29 in the New Living Translation. The Lord our God has secrets known to no one. We are not accountable for them, but we and our children are accountable forever for all that He has revealed to us, so that we may obey all the terms of this instruction. There are some secrets of creation. There are some secrets of life that we don't know. There are some things that is known only to God Himself. Okay, God only revealed to us about Himself, about His operation, His way, as much as we need to know. Now, the subject of aliens, UFOs, extraterrestrial being, interdimensional being, hybrid creatures, or transhumanism is all over the place. This subject is all over the place. When you look at our mainstream media, social media, even government documents, government agency, and so on, this subject is all over the place. And there are serious investigatory journalism and documentary into this subject. And also, there is no end of films and movies that also explore this field. There are people who claim to have seen aliens. There are people who claim to have been abducted by aliens. There have been many sightings of unidentified flying objects or unidentified area phenomena. That is the UAPs. So we are talking about the UFOs and the UAPs. There have been claims about government, particularly in the developed world, having dark agency on the projects about aliens, UFO, extraterrestrial being, interdimensional being, government agency that are dealing covertly behind the curtain on this subject. There have been claims of government shooting down UFOs and UAPs. There have been claims of government reverse engineering the craft that they've shut down, or even operating and investigating and doing all sort of research on these UFOs. And there have also been claims of the government trying to contact extraterrestrial being, and the list goes on and on. So this subject we are dealing with is not periphery, and we cannot ignore it. In fact, in our days, the subject is getting bigger and bigger, and the subject is becoming more overwhelming. And that is the reason why we need to talk about this thing. Now we are looking at the subject of these aliens and co in our days. So again, the question is, do aliens, UFOs, UAPs, extraterrestrial beings, and interdimensional being, do they exist today? If so, what are the implications, especially for us as Christians? What does the Bible say about them? What about hybrid creatures? What about transhumanism? Now, this is a big subject, and obviously I don't have the time or the expertise to go deep into this. But our approach would be to make some basic fundamental observation that will help us as Christians to navigate this complex big subject. Things that we can have at the back of our mind, foundation against which we can test any one of these things that come across our path. Now, as we move into this, I need to put a big disclaimer out there. Big disclaimer. Now, in the course of dealing with this subject, I am going to be looking at what experts in that field of aliens and so on say. I'm going to be telling you what the experts says, so we can learn, so we can know what they say, so we can interrogate it, so we can learn from it. Please, I am not endorsing in any way these views. I'm not endorsing what they say. It is very, very important for us to understand what they are saying, to interrogate it, to interpret it as much as we can in the light of the scripture. So that is what I am trying to do. So please, I'm going to repeat this once or twice again. This is not an endorsement of what these people say. It is just we understanding what they say and looking at it in the light of the scripture. So we are going to take some couple of observations and then see what we can learn. First observation. Remember, we are looking at what expert in this field says. First observation. Leading expert in this field of aliens and so on, they agree that over 90% of the information about aliens, UFOs, UAPs, extraterrestrial being, interdimensional being, experts in this area agree that over 90% of the information out there are false. And this is very important, that over 90% of the information that is circulating on our mainstream media, on our social media, that is in the public domain, over 90% of those information are false, and some of them are deliberately false, and we're going to look a little bit more into that. Many of this information are simply conspiracy theories and sensationalism. Now, this is not what I'm saying. This is what experts in the field, these are the people that actually believe in aliens. These are the people that actually believe in all this extraterrestrial being, but they also admit that the public and the public domain is flooded with wrong information, and some of them are intentionally put out there to confuse and to deceive people. Now, we need to understand that because of the nature of this subject, it is easy for even honest seekers to be deceived by wrong information. By the reason of what this is, and as we take further observation, you will see the reason why this is a dark web of information, if you can put it that way. It is the nature of this information that people communicate it in the dark web of information. I'm using that word intentionally. Okay, so that's the first observation, that experts in this field of aliens and so on do agree that over 90% of the information available to the public are false. Second observation, number 2. According to leading experts in this field, they said there are 3 major categories of this phenomenon that people are confusing and mixing them together, and this is leading to confusion. So they talk about 3 categories. Again, my disclaimer. I am just telling you what the experts in this field say. Remember, this is not an endorsement. We are looking at it, we are learning from it. We'll eat the flesh and spit out the bone. We are just saying this is what the expert in this field says. Number 2, second observation is that even experts in this field agree that there has been a lot of confusion because people mix up the various category of this phenomenon or this being, and they talk about 3 major categories. Okay, what are the major categories they talk about? The first category is the category they call the ET, or the extraterrestrial beings. The ET, the extraterrestrial beings. So these are the beings from other planets outside our own solar system. So these are physical beings, if you can put it that way. But they said they don't belong to our solar system, that they are from other planet outside our solar system who travel the space and visit the Earth. And apparently this ET, this extraterrestrial being, they have higher civilization and technology than we have here on Earth. In fact, some of the experts claim that the reason they came here is because they noticed that humans are doing things that will endanger creation. Okay, and that all these activities that we have been doing, detonating, bomb and all these things that we are trying to do to destroy ourselves is attracting the attention of all these extraterrestrial beings, and they are visiting us to actually see what is going on. Remember, this is not an endorsement. Yes, I know I'm repeating it. I'm just telling you what the expert says so that we can learn, so that we can eat the flesh and spit out the bone. So they said, look, there are 3 categories, and that people often mix them together. So they said the first category are the extraterrestrial being, the ET. They said the second category, now this is very, very important. Remember what they said in our first observation, that 90% of the information out there are false. Now we are looking at these 3 categories. First category is what they call the ET. The second category is what they call man-made UFOs and man-made UAP. Now this is very, very, very important for us to understand. And what they are saying is that there's this second category of this phenomenon that are really man-made, and experts believe that this is the biggest of these 3 categories. They claim that this object and phenomenon that people often see, and they say, oh, this is on UFO, this is a UAP, that actually many of these objects and phenomenon are built by contractors on technology that are based on true discovery. Okay, so what they are saying is that people see things and they say, oh, this is an unidentified flying object, or an unidentified area phenomenon. It is true, but that these objects and this phenomenon were built by humans. These are agencies that are actually building these things. Now they are in the dark space. They are not open to the whole world. They are not open to the public. In fact, they said that sometimes a lot of these agencies are not even known by the leaders of the free world, so-called. That some of these agencies are so much in the dark that some presidents and leaders of nations don't even know about them. They are blindsided about some of these things. This is what the expert says. That yes, some of these objects that people see and they rightly label, this is what the expert says. This is not an endorsement, okay? That actually they were actually created by humans. But how do humans create these objects? Because they definitely don't look like objects that we would create normally. And they said the way they created this object is based on 2 discoveries. Number 1, early human inventions. Okay, they said there are some inventions in the last few hundred of years, particularly in the last 100 or 200 years. They said that there are some human inventions which have been largely confiscated by the government. Now, more about this later, because I'm going to come back to this in another observation. But that these UFOs, man-made UFOs that we are seeing, that they are actually very, very unique, but that they are being created by humans, and they are based on early human invention which government confiscated, number 1, and that number 2, they are also based on reverse engineering of the physics and the science of captured object. that we discussed in the first category, the ETs that they said visit the Earth, that actually some of them were captured, and that humans are actually reverse engineering their craft, and that quite a number of the things that we then see are human-made based on these two discoveries. Number one, based on early human invention, and number two, based on us reverse engineering the physics and the science of captured objects of the first category. Is that okay? Okay. So, third category. Remember, we are on second observation, where we are told that there are three categories. So we've looked at the first categories, which are the ETs. We've looked at the second category, which are really the big category according to the expert, which are really human-made UFOs and UAPs. Third category, they said this group, they are more complex. They said here we are talking about strange phenomenons, that these are entities from another dimension. You remember the ET, they are really from the universe, the known universe, the physical universe. Even though they are not from our planet, they are from other planet, according to the expert. But these third categories, they said this one, they are strange phenomenon because they are entities from another dimension. And these are what they call the extra dimensional beings or entities. Remember, again, my disclaimer, please, I am only telling you what the expert in this field of aliens and so on say, so that we can learn from them. I am not endorsing them. Is that okay? Please always understand that. Let's go back to the observation. Remember, number one observation, we said leading experts in this field agreed that over 90% of the information about aliens and co are false. Number two, they speak of three major categories of this phenomenon that are interconnected, but they should not be confused. Let's go to the third observation. Expert tells us that government all over the world, particularly in the so-called developed country, they have extraterrestrial and interdimensional programs where they shoot down these objects and entities and capture these creatures, where they conduct tests and investigation on these creatures, and where they also reverse engineer their craft and so on. Remember, we mentioned that in the other category. So expert tells us that actually a lot of government have this agency, but however, they said that these agencies are global and they are only known to very few elites. They are only known to very few elites, and most of those people are not even government or leaders of nation. Again, I'm just telling you what the expert says. This is not an endorsement. This is not an endorsement. And this expert claimed that many elected leaders of the free world are not even part of this elite group, that many of them are only told what they need to know on as need to know basis. I've read story about many presidents of America that have no idea of these programs that goes on behind the closed door. So that is observation number 3. Observation number 4. Expert tells us that government sometimes deliberately confuses the water. Remember, we mentioned that. I think we are going to stop here because of our time. Okay, let's stop on observation number 4. We've looked at 3 observations, isn't it? Remember what we are trying to do. We are not endorsing this observation. We are just asking ourselves, what do these people believe? And then we are also trying to understand them from biblical point of view. And one of the things you will understand when we finish this observation is that oftentimes the reason why people confuse a lot of this thing, or oftentimes the reason why a lot of people believe a lot of this thing, is because they are totally ignorant of the God factor, the fact that God can create things, that God is smarter than us, okay? That God can create things that, yes, we are smart, but we are not anywhere smart as God. That God can create things that will dumbfound us, number 1. Number 2, they are also ignorant of the fact that the devil can deceive people. And this is very, very important. You know, the power of God to create the power that God has to create and the power that the devil have to deceive. And like we said in one of our reflection, that people can be deceived by knowledge. All right. And those are some of the facts that we are going to superimpose on some of these things that we are learning from the experts, so-called, so that we can understand how to relate to this information from a Christian point of view. So we stop there. I know we stopped in the middle of something, but I don't want to go on like I did the last time. So if you're listening to me, I want you to know that God loves you. And God is not an alien, okay? God is God. Jesus is not an alien. God is not a vibration or an energy or a force. God is God. And He has sent His Son to save us. He died on the cross so that you and I can be saved. Salvation is available, but you can only partake of it if you receive it. So you can come to Jesus. If as God convicts you of your sin, you can come to Jesus and ask Him for salvation. Ask Him for help, and He will save you. And then you can be a daughter and a son of God, and you can walk with Him on this surface of the earth. Join a Bible-believing church. And when this is all over, and it will be over, you can then spend eternity with Him in the new heaven and the new earth, where, yes, we will walk in higher technology. We will live in an environment that is free of confusion and degeneration. Okay, we'll be able to achieve, our potential as God created us in the beginning. Do it right now.